So the top muscle support supplements for women over 35, this is another really hot topic because what we're finding, and it's pretty obvious actually, is that muscle is the main organ we need as we age. For example, my dad just had to have a procedure for his heart valve. He is 81 and he was able to walk right away afterwards. And my dad used to run marathons. So knock on wood, he has a lot of muscle. And that muscle is what is enabling him to recover quickly. So as we age, inevitably, whether it's a life event of stress or it is a medical procedure or it's a fall or some other trauma, we're going to be challenged. And very often, most of the time, it's your muscle mass that's going to have you sailing through this. So we see people, and when I used to run in the hospital, people that fade away after a fall. So they fall and that's it, because they don't have the reserve to get their strength back. They're bedbound, immune system gets set off, they may get infections, and it's just a vicious kind of downhill spiral. How do we build muscle so that as we get older, we have that resilience? And remember, even something like I literally took a fall in our old office. I tripped on the edge of my pants, and they were concrete, hard steps, and I rolled down them. And I, knock on wood again, was able to bounce back up. When I talk about increasing muscle mass, it's also working on flexibility and balance. So you don't want to do one without the other. You want to make sure that you have some core and balance work, stretching, so that if you have a fall, you're more limber / nimble. But you also need to build that muscle, because muscle is a metabolically active organ. It secretes something called myokines. Myokines are very healthy, healing nutrients and compounds that get secreted in the bloodstream. So I've seen very overweight patients of mine who had been athletes, and that muscle is still there under the fat. So that's a beautiful thing. It almost like has a memory, it'll still be there. So we want to do everything we can to build it at any age. So starting as a kid, being super athletic, making sure your kids are not just on devices or only doing, let's say, creative things, music, art, drama. Those are wonderful, but you want to get those kids active because we want muscle memory. We want them to build muscle. As you get into your teens and 20s, many people will develop a workout routine and they start getting busy once they get a job. So really paying attention, especially once you hit 30, 35, to make it a priority. So getting to the gym, doing weights, and if you don't want to do them at the gym, there's so many great, whether it's TikTok videos on kettlebells, whether it is wall squats, 10 squats every hour, all the trending things are helpful because you want to do that movement that's going to bring muscle in. And then there are several supplements that you can introduce, because a lot of times people will be doing so much cardio and they'll feel like they're still exhausted, even though they're eating clean, they're working out. I hear this a lot in the office. And then we'll measure their muscle mass and it's really low. And we find that the more muscle they build up, not only do things like that balance that I mentioned, the ability to handle falls, ability to maintain mobility, not only is that there, but they have more energy. And you'll also feel empowered when you can reach down and pick something up that you used to have help for. When you can take your suitcase and put it in the overhead bin without getting nervous that you're going to drop it on the guy sitting underneath the seat that you're reaching over. Those types of things you'll notice as you start really working your muscles. So there's a handful of supplements that I'm going to recommend, but remember with your exercise regimen, one or two other points, which is when you start lifting, you want to do ideally 2 or 3 days a week, and muscle really needs to build when you rest. So it's a prime example of hormesis, which is that concept that we get incredible benefits when we stress a system, not too far beyond its breaking point, stress the system and then allow it to come back into balance. And that's the need with exercise, especially weights. You can push your muscles to extreme, and then as they recover, they'll get stronger. So that's a big piece. Don't forget your recovery during your workout routine, or when you plan your workout routine. Plus, an extra bonus is really pay attention to the protein. We've talked about this before, but you want to do about 30 grams of protein post-workout. That will really help. And there's a lot of debate on when to bring your protein in. And one of my favorite supplements was just essential amino acids. Some people talk about taking it right before, some people talk about taking it right after. But if people, especially if you have trouble digesting meats or you're vegan or vegetarian, get those essential amino acids in. They will really help you boost muscle. And you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein in a day, which that topic has been discussed many different times, but make sure that you're getting it in. I find it easiest to do it throughout the day. 30 to 40 grams at each meal would be amazing. You're going to need more if you're taller or if you're a man. And then supplement wise, there are some basics. So one of the most well-known and most researched is creatine. Creatine helps your mitochondrial function. It helps your brain. It has a lot of benefits, but the key is involved in in building strength and muscle growth. So I've seen patients put on 5 pounds of muscle in a relatively short period of time once they add creatine to their diet. And you can usually throw it into a shake. You can find a tasteless form to put it even in your coffee. There are a couple different types of creatine. So the one that's most distributed is creatine monohydrate. And that's, a lot of people do tolerate that, but many women don't. They notice they bloat, or they'll feel like their joints are achy because it can retain water. So there's another one called creatine HCl, hydrochloride. So creatine HCl does seem to be slightly better tolerated, especially by women. So if you have trouble with the other one, switch it around, try to find that one that works. Start slow, 1 gram to 2 grams, build up to 5, and you should see improvements. Next are hormones. So if your hormones aren't balanced, if your testosterone especially is low, it's harder to build muscle. So you want to take a look at that. You might need a little testosterone cream or a testosterone pellet. If it's really low, can help you put on added muscle and maintain it. And then lastly are peptides. So peptides is a new field over the past 10 years or so. And luckily there's several that are out there that can help us with muscle growth. So in general, anything that boosts growth hormone will help us grow muscles. So one called CJC ipamorelin is a good one for muscle building, but anything that helps mitochondria. So MOTS-C, SS31, these are a lot of weird letters and numbers, but peptides in general for muscle growth have shown to be super effective. And we've seen people help with that transition from fat to muscle utilizing those additional tools. So remember, one of the number one hacks you can do to not only live a longer time, but make sure it's a healthy, vibrant time, is start building muscle early. Start in your 20s, in your 30s, but especially after 35. Keep an eye on all these factors, throw in these supplements, and you'll see results.